This video is going to look at inequalities. There are 5 symbols that represent an inequality. There is the less than sign, the greater than sign, the less than or equal to sign, the greater than or equal to sign, and the not equal to sign. This video is going to focus on 4 of these signs. And what we're going to do is first we're going to look at what exactly an inequality is. If I have the numbers 5 and 12, the sign that goes between 5 and 12 is going to be less than, because 5 is less than 12. You can also remember it as the sign is a mouth that wants to eat the bigger number. So you can do Pac-Man, you can remember a shark, whatever works for you. The challenging part is when variables are put into the equation. So let's say that we have x is less than 3. X could be any number that is less than 3. It could be 1 because 1 is less than 3. It could be negative 5,000 because negative 5,000 is less than 3. It could be 2.9 repeating because 2.9 repeating is also less than 3. But we want to find a way to show what all of the numbers that x could be are. And in order to do that, we are going to use a number line. So we're going to put the focus number, which is 3, one number less than that, and one number more than that. Because x is less than 3, x could be any number smaller than 3. All of these numbers. All the way until the end of the number line, which never actually ends. But x isn't 3. And to show that x isn't 3, but that 3 is the focus number, we're going to circle that number. Kind of like to put a target on it, to say, look at 3, but not actually 3. Look at everything under it. Now, you see that in this case, I followed the arrow, because x is less than 3. If I had 2 is less than 3, I know that the smaller number is going to be on the side that the arrow points to. And the the mouth is going to try to eat the bigger number. If I were to reverse this and have 3 and 2, I would also have to switch the sign to keep it true. This is also true when you have a variable. So if it's written with the variable on the right, the sign would also be reversed. What this means for you is this means you only follow the arrow when the variable's on the left, when it starts out with the variable. If the variable's on the right, you do the opposite of what the arrow says. So the arrow's pointing off to the right, so we put it off to the left on our number line. Let's look at another example. Let's look at x is greater than or equal to 8. This means x is any number bigger than 8, or x could be 8. So let's get our number line going. We have 8, one less than 8, and one more than 8. And now I'm going to graph this. Because the variable's on the left, I know that I'm going to follow the direction the arrow's pointing. So I'm going to shade in everything bigger than 8. I'm going to put my circle for the target number. We also have the equal sign. That means that x could also be 8. So while I'm shading in everything x could be, I'm also going to shade in the circle, because x could be 8. See how when there's no underline, you don't shade in the circle, and when there is an underline, you do shade in the circle. Now we're going to really look at something. Let's say that we want to take these 2 inequalities and we want to smush them together. So what this is going to look like is it's going to look something like this. We need to put x in the middle. We know that x is greater than 8. And we also know that x is less than 3. But I can't just put something like this, because that would look silly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch where the variable is. Instead of using this, I'm going to use this. So I have 3 is greater than x. So let's take a look at what this would look like being graphed. I need to make sure that I have my two numbers on here. I need 3 and I need 8. So I'll do a 3 here, I'll put 8 here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now what I want to do is I want to take what I just did on these two and just put them on the same graph. So what I'm going to do is 3 is less than x. I'm sorry, 3 is greater than x. So what that means is that I'm going to put an open circle on 3 because there's no underline, and because the variable, if I do this, it's just a regular inequality. Because the variable's on the right, I have to do the opposite of what the arrow says, which is going to be to shade in this way. Now I'm going to look at the other part of this. X is greater than or equal to 8. 8 is my focus number. The variable is on the left, so I just follow the arrow. And because there's a greater than or equal sign in there, or equals to sign in there, I'm going to shade in that dot. So I have an open dot here, a closed dot here. So basically what this is saying is that x is not 3, it's not 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's not anything less than 8. So we can see the two areas where x might land. Let's look at one more squished up inequality. 5 is less than w is less than or equal to 9. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break these two inequalities apart. I have 5 is less than w. I can rephrase that. I got that from right here. I'm going to reverse this so the variable's on the left, because that's easier for me to work with. So I'm going to put w here, 5 here, and because I did that, I need to switch the sign. Then I'm going to take w is less than or equal to 9, and we're going to put this over here. So now I have two different expressions that I want, two different equalities that I want to graph on the same line. So I know for a fact I'm going to need 5 and 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, if 5 is greater than, if w is greater than 5, that means 5 is my focus number, but w isn't 5. So what I have to do is I'm going to shade everywhere above 5. We're going to talk about what we're doing in a minute. But I also have this. I also have w is less than or equal to 9, which means 9 is a focus number, and w is going to be anything under that. Now, this doesn't indicate the entire line, even though that's what I've initially showed you. If I were just to graph these two independently on their own, this is what it would look like. But because we have a big smushed up inequality, and because the directions are going towards each other, that means it stops where the dots are. So actually, nothing is shaded in beyond the dots. It's just everything in between. So w will never be 4, and it will never be 10.